My name is David Jaffe. Welcome to the Wealth and Health Podcast, where you'll learn valuable skills and positive habits that will improve your life. This podcast originally aired as a video on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/beststockstrategy. The Wealth and Health Podcast is brought to you by beststockstrategy.com.
Trading with Ashley.
There are no trader left behind. Oh, see, even I know her slogan. With Trading with Ashley, there is no trader left behind. Now, give me your money.
And we are winning. We are doing incredible
winners.
With the trades that we're taking.
How it works is y'all pay me, and then I build a nice mansion, and then I host a party, and then we celebrate my success. That's how it works.
Warning, this can blow up your trading account by trading with Ashley. Maybe she's talking about that trade on MSTR where at its low point, when you compare it to where it was at its high point, she was likely down over $300,000. Or maybe she'll talk about that Tesla trade that she claims she made when Tesla was trading over 400. I'm about 99.5% sure that she lied about it, but let's see what she has to say.
Really believe that it will help a lot of you that may find yourself in the same situation. And here's what happened to me. So I was working corporate America. A lot of you know from watching my show that I had been in corporate America almost 30 years. And when you are an executive in a large company.
Right, so she's claiming that she worked at corporate America for about 30 years. Yeah, what usually happens is that these people end up making so much money from their audience that they end up building new houses and buying expensive cars and things of that nature. Because the real money isn't in working for corporate America, rather it's in talking to your audience like they're 5 years old. And unfortunately for many of these people, it's in selling fake hope while also promoting an inferior trading strategy.
And you pull a good paycheck, it's pretty easy to get approved for loans. So we had the dream to give our children a new home before all of them moved on and graduated into life. So at this point, we have 4 children. One of them was entering high school. Another one, actually 2 of them were entering into college. And it was our desire to go ahead and build our home for them, that they would have a lot of memories in there before they grew up too much and went off and started families of their own. So that put a lot of pressure on me. And I actually stayed at this job that I was unhappy with for longer than I should so that I would continue to qualify for the loan to build this home. Well, as time passed and I became increasingly dissatisfied with the amount of time I was spending at work, the demands on me, and this environment in general. After you have worked for so long, you really aren't into the office politics anymore, and you're wanting just a more simple, happy life. So I decided at that point that I would go ahead and remove myself from the situation and I would trade for a living. Well,
I don't believe that she's a profitable trader.
I made that switch. One thing happened. I no longer qualified for the loan to build our home. For those of you that just trade for a living like I do, you have to have at least 2 years of solid trading experience before banks will even consider giving you a loan. And so I hated disappointing the children, but it was really something that was important to me that I actually have a better situation and that we stop and pump the brakes and take some time to actually do this the right way. Well, unfortunately, I saw their faces when I shared the news with them, and I really started thinking about how fast that life moves, and this was very important to me to move forward with the project. So I started taking chances that I should have never taken. I actually was over trading. I was taking too large of a...
I've said from the onset that I believe her trading strategy is horrible, and I believe that she takes way too much risk.
I was putting too much into one particular ticker symbol. I did all the things you're not supposed to do. Revenge trading, that was a big piece of it. If you lose a little bit of money, you double up and say, I'm going to make it back on that same play, but just increase my odds. So I was doing futures trading. I was doing all sorts of things to try to hurry and get the amount of money that we needed to build this home since we no longer qualified for the loans. And then one day I just stopped the crazy. I actually sat the family down and I said, I am doing things I'm not proud of. I am starting to take.
I could say a lot worse things. I will, though, give Ashley credit because I do receive a lot of emails complaining about people like Invest with Corey, Felix Pren from Gold Academy, Invest with Henry as well, about chargebacks and getting refunds and them denying refunds. To Ashley's credit, I don't get as many people complaining about her, and I know of a few people where she actually granted refunds. Usually what happens with a lot of the worst actors in the industry is that they offer some type of quote-unquote unbeatable, no-risk, money-back guarantee. However, when people actually try to redeem that offer, they're almost always denied. But, like I said, to Ashley's credit, I do know of at least a few instances where she did honor the refund policy. So kudos to her for doing that.
Too large of chances with our income that we've worked so hard for through the years. And I'm sorry to share with you, but I am going to pump the brakes on this project to build this home. And I am going to wait until I am to the point where we can either pay cash for the home or we can start to qualify for loans because I have enough trading experience under my belt. And so they were disappointed, but they understood. I have a very supportive family and, life went on. And so we just kind of put that dream of our dream home on the back burner. I am very proud to share with you. Now things have come full circle.
Wow, she looks really short. She's like 5'1", 5'2". However, look at that house right there. It's really, really nice. Ashley really has to thank her viewers for funding her lifestyle and being able to afford such a nice house. I mean, she's not a young woman. She's probably 55 years old. And she was unable to afford a very nice house at 55 years old. She worked 30 years in corporate America. And now, suddenly, by monetizing her viewers, she's able to afford to pay cash for a house. That is so amazing. And it's similar to someone like Investing with Corey, who had a negative net worth of minus $50,000 in December 2022. And then suddenly in February 2025, he's been able to purchase a house that's valued over $500,000 in New Jersey.
And we just broke ground on that dream home. It was such a pivotal moment, and it really was a great lesson for me and for our family that sometimes you just have to be patient and do things the right way. So what changed? What made all the difference in?
Well, I can definitely tell you what made all the difference, but I'm going to be nice. I gave Ashley her kudos for refunding a few people, so I'll keep the negativity to myself. But, wink, wink, we all kind of know what the reason is behind her being able to afford this new house now.
Us now being able to go forward with our project. Well, I did. Once I slowed down, once I started...
Oh, look at that smile. She's always smiling. Always smiling. How can you guys not trust a kind old lady from Louisiana with a southern accent? I love you guys. That's why I talk to you like you're my 5-year-old children.
Things the proper way. I started controlling my position size. I quit taking too many chances, and I went back to what I knew worked really well.
But when did this happen? That MSTR trade, which was extremely negligent, which had very limited upside potential and had all downside risk, you made that trade just a few months ago. And then that Tesla trade, which I'm like 99.5% confident that you lied about, that also happened recently. So I'm not really sure about the timing of when you had that light bulb experience, especially considering that I believe you still recommend running the wheel, where if you look at every single covered call ETF, it substantially underperforms simply holding the SPY and not doing anything. Because when you sell covered calls, you're basically trading the future long-term capital appreciation potential for a few pennies of option premium.
And that's the wheel strategy. There are a lot of...
Okay, so she's talking about the wheel strategy. Let me be clear with you. I believe that the wheel strategy is horrible. Everyone that was trading the wheel strategy in 2025 when the market fell 20 or 30% basically got crushed, especially if you were leveraged. You then had to close out the positions at the most inopportune time because you had a margin call. You were also trading dollars for pennies because you were losing dollars on the downside. And then you were selling covered calls, only picking up a few cents, which when the market rebounded, it would lock in your losses because you would sell covered calls below your cost basis. The reason why people do well when they hold on to stocks is due to the capital appreciation. Why would you sell covered calls, which reduces your freedom and your flexibility of being able to sell the shares when they're overbought? And also you're reducing and eliminating your upside potential for a few pennies. Let me show you something real quick about the dangers of running the wheel strategy and the covered calls. And if you look at Microsoft, you can see that 200 shares of Microsoft are showing me a gain of about $14.4 thousand. However, I sold covered calls and I'm missing out on a tremendous amount of profits. These covered calls are going to force me to sell Microsoft at about $415. That means that because Microsoft is trading at $460, I'm going to miss out on $45 a share. That's almost 10% of what Microsoft is currently trading at in upside potential. That's $9,000. So $9,000 of my $14.4 thousand gains has been sacrificed because I thought it was a good idea to make a few pennies by selling covered calls. You can learn covered calls for free. There's no reason that you have to pay anybody to learn this super simple strategy that is almost guaranteed to underperform the stock market.
Alternative strategies that traders use to make money. But I just want you to know that I spend 80% of my trading budget for the wheel strategy.
Right, and that's why I believe that you're not a profitable trader. But to Ashley's credit, there are a lot worse strategies than running the wheel. Do I know with 100% certainty that she's not profitable? No, I don't. Maybe she got super lucky. However, if you look at some of the top covered call ETFs, they always underperform the SPY, and the problem with the wheel strategy is that your main way of profiting is from the capital appreciation of the underlying stock, which is completely okay, but you're limiting the upside potential by selling the covered call.
Safe way to trade, and I finally made quite a bit of money from doing it. So when I went back to the basics and I started running the wheel strategy for the vast majority of my trades, the wins started stacking up. Another thing I did is I had patience. So if you've traded stocks and you sell puts and you...
I'm not even sure if what she's saying is accurate, because if we looked at her account when she was running the wheel strategy just 2 months ago, she was probably down a ton of money. So has she basically recovered everything and hired contractors and gave them the okay? The timing of that just seems a little bit suspect. Again, I could be wrong.
No, you sometimes are afraid of assignment. I quit being afraid of assignment. I had researched the companies. They were great companies. I knew over time that they would go up. So I quit running away from my trades and I just started accepting the trades as I had taken them. I had done the research. I knew they were solid companies. Once I did that and started taking assignment, at that point, all I had to do was be patient. And usually...
The problem with assignment is, especially if you're trading on margin, the margin requirements for a naked put is about 2.5 times less than the margin requirements when you're assigned shares. That's why a lot of people during a market crash, if they're assigned shares, they're forced to liquidate their account at the most inopportune time. If you're not using margin and you're going to trade the wheel strategy and you're only using cash secured puts, then you're almost undoubtedly going to underperform the market, because as the market is going up, you're basically just picking up a few pennies of option premium while the underlying security is appreciating in value.
Within 3 to 4 weeks, that stock would turn around and start heading back up on the price action on the Bollinger Band, and then I would start selling covered calls. I quit being afraid of the call away. I let the process work. I would allow my trades to be called away, because really that's when you start making the most amount of money. It's when you're put the shares, you already receive.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that. Let's check out some of the covered call ETFs, okay? So here we have XYLD, and it looks like it was initially offered to the public at about $40. Now it's currently trading at about $38. So basically, in about 12 years, there's been no movement. So yeah, you get dividends of 11%. They are going to be short-term gains, therefore you're going to be taxed at the highest marginal tax rate. So if you're okay with earning on a net basis around 8% a year while also taking downside risk, then I guess it's okay. Let's look at JEPI. This is trading at $56. It looks like it was offered to the public at around, let's give it some credit and say that it was offered at about $50. So this has done a little bit better. Their dividend yield is about 8%, which after tax is about 6%. So in 5 years, the capital appreciation on this was about 12%, plus about 6% net a year. So it's okay. And then the other one, QYLD, we can see that this initially, about 10 years ago, was trading at $26. Now it's trading at $16. So it's fallen tremendously. And you get a dividend here of about 13%, taxed at the highest rate. So it's about 10%, but you've also lost money on the actual stock price. If you want to look at SPY, since 2014, it was basically trading at, let's say 180, let's even say 190, and now it's 591. Oh, and that's not even taking into account the dividend, which is about 2.5% a year that you would have received. All right, let's go back and see what else Ashley has to say.
Received premium for it. Now you ride the price wave all the way up and then you start selling calls. Once I started allowing the call away, that's when I was able to start my snowball of money that really expanded my trading account. So I wanted to share this with you because there's so many different ways to trade. And I know some of you, I've actually had some students that have come to me and they said, what would you do if you needed to make a lot of money really quick? And I tell them right away, that's not the way to trade. That will get you into a lot of trouble. You take unusual chances. And usually it ends up where you're going back to a strategy that you know is slower but more consistent, hence the wheel strategy.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I feel that traders and investors, they take way too much risk. They try to earn anywhere from 5 to 10% a month, and then they end up blowing up their account. But I definitely don't think that the wheel strategy is a good strategy that long-term people will be happy with the returns.
So I thought I would share this with those of you that may find yourself in a similar situation. If you go back to what you know best, and if you accept smaller wins more consistently, I promise you are going to be in a much better situation. So for those of you that have never traded selling options and it's something you think you might be interested in, I'd be happy.
Now she's going to pitch the community because she needs the money in order to finish up her house. So she'll teach you the wheel strategy, even though there are tons of people on YouTube where you can learn the wheel strategy for free.
To teach you everything I know about selling options. I run a bustling community. I take so much time teaching and training them, answering questions, coming up with solid companies for them to trade. And we are winning. We are doing incredible with the trades that we're taking.
How it works is y'all pay me, and then I build a nice mansion, and then I host a party, and then we celebrate my success. That's how it works.
Even when we had everything pulled back, for those of you that trade options, when everyone's scared and running away from the market, that's when we can make the most money selling puts on quality companies at low prices. Now,
I would say the probability that people were completely calm when the market pulled back by 30% and their short puts were getting assigned and they were losing money hand over fist as their shares were cratering in price, I would say the likelihood that everyone was super calm and thinking, oh yeah, let's sell some additional puts, probably close to 0%. All right, it just doesn't make sense. When people are panicking and then those existing puts have already been assigned, often at prices that are about 10 or 15% above the current market price, I highly doubt that people were all excited and happy about the available opportunities.
That is coming to fruition, and we are having a really good year when otherwise a lot of people that were afraid of the market, they actually had the drawdown or they got out of it completely.
She shows so many different accounts. I thought she had a Fidelity account, and then She showed a Robinhood account, I believe, on one of the videos that I saw. It would really be nice to see her overall returns on a monthly basis. So if anyone is seeing that, then let me know via email.
For any of you that just are curious and you want to better understand maybe my style of teaching, I have a very reasonably priced workshop. I have teamed up with one of my good friends that is very skilled in technical analysis, and we were doing this workshop together.
Yeah, there's absolutely no research behind the predictive value of technical analysis. And think about it rationally, right? A lot of the major pullbacks that have happened in 2025 have been due to economic uncertainty and geopolitical events. What technical indicators are possibly going to predict that Trump is going to issue a 135% tariff on China or a 50% on the European Union? Instead, what people do is they'll just draw random lines on charts and then they'll try to sell that as a product. But if it actually worked, then there wouldn't be numerous studies that indicate that virtually every single retail day trader loses money. And the reason why retail day traders lose money, despite almost all of them using technical analysis, is that technical analysis doesn't work. In fact, the studies show that even the profitable retail traders, they make less than minimum wage.
And consider being a part of it. It's on Saturday, May the 31st. Watch this quick clip and it'll tell you everything you need to know. What if one workshop could change the way
Look
you
at me
trade
smile.
forever?
Aren't you guys trusting me? Don't you find me so trustworthy and credible?
Hosting a live 2-hour workshop where I'll be teaching you all things skips. A smarter, lower risk option strategy I actually developed and trademarked to help you grow your portfolio without gambling.
And out the link below to secure
Up here with me, Trading with Ashley, there is with stacking small wins more consistently. When you go for the gold and you go for those big plays and you're desperate, that's when you're going to make larger mistakes. And I don't want that for
Yeah, just like the MSTR trade that you made.
any of my viewing community. Remember, if you're with me, Trading with Ashley,
There
is
are no trader left behind.
Now,
Oh,
if
see,
you're
even I know her slogan. With Trading with Ashley, there is no trader left behind. Now give me your money. Visit beststockstrategy.com and submit your email address to receive valuable free training. Please give this podcast a positive rating and a review. If you have any questions, visit beststockstrategy.com and send me a message.